Well, good afternoon, everybody. Gabriel Lewitt here, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon. And more importantly, just want to wish you all on the call here a very, very happy new year and happy 2020 and a new decade. So imagine that we've already fast forwarded to a whole new decade here. That's pretty crazy. So today we're going to cover a couple of really important things, in my opinion. Number one, just how to set yourself up for a really terrific 2020 year. So I'm hoping that this year is your best year ever. And we're going to cover really two key things here today. Number one is some general tips and ideas I think that will help you from a business planning perspective. But then the bulk of our call here today, we're going to talk about 6 key marketing ideas that I use in my own financial advisory practice as well, but that I've seen really successful for many, many other financial advisors out there in the industry. So my goal is to just hopefully provide you with a couple of key ideas and takeaways here on today's call, and then you can hopefully go back and implement those immediately into your practice to help you set up for a great year. So just going into a couple of quick things here. If you haven't yet heard of Vision Financial Marketing, we are, in my opinion, one of the best CRMs in the industry. We have a lot of embedded marketing tools, really easy to use system for organizing and tracking all your client data. We provide coaching, and more importantly, we've got a lot of experience just for financial advisors, and everything we've built and developed is designed exclusively to help you build and grow and manage your business easier than ever before, okay? And a little bit about me, I'm a technology nerd, a marketing nerd, I guess, as well, and I really love just talking about ways of building and growing your business. And so that's what today is all about. If there's something I can do to help you, even if I don't cover something in as much depth on the call here as you'd like, you can email me, you can call me. My job is to help you really get the business that you've always wanted to get within your financial practice. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. I want to just start today's call off by talking about some general business planning techniques that you can use for 2020. And many of these, just as an example, we've recently done in our own practice for the upcoming year here as well, okay? So in my opinion, business planning is one of the cheapest things that you can do. In fact, it's free, but it's also one of the most important things that you can do when it comes to growing and developing your business. And so the first thing that I would recommend that you do is, if you haven't yet carved out the time, put aside a few hours on a weekend, maybe come in early to the office. What we did is we took our staff away for a half a day for a little off-site visit. And what we did is we just chatted through the results that we had last year. So what did we do production-wise? What did we think went really well? What did we think didn't work well? And what we're going to take from that is really our second part here, is we're going to look for key areas that we want to improve upon in this upcoming year, okay? So that's the very first step that you're trying to identify, is things that you want to do better for this upcoming year. And then once you have that, what I would recommend you do, because there's a lot of research that talks about the value of writing down goals with given concrete deadlines as well. So if you create a 2020 improvement roadmap, and it's something that can just be as simple as a couple bullets on a Word document, but give yourself deadline dates for those things that you want to improve, okay? So let's say you've always wanted to get your website updated. You're looking at your website last year and you say, man, I really need to update that. It's just not doing what I wanted to do. Maybe you give yourself a deadline date of March 30th of this year, okay, to make sure you get that website updated and in place for your business. So that's the idea, is generating a hit list that you can use. And if you refer to that every single week and every single month, you're less likely to go off track and more likely to accomplish those things that you've identified are really important for your business. The next thing, and we're going to talk about this in more detail today because it's so intrinsically connected to your marketing plan, but that is, what are your sales and production goals for this upcoming year? So whether you're a one-man office or a multi-advisor office, you've got to have sales and production goals for the year, and we're going to dive more into that, so I won't go too much further on that here, but very, very important part of your business planning. And that's going to lead directly into what your marketing plan is for this year, okay? And so I'm going to give you some ideas and suggestions and tips for how to set up and structure your marketing plan that we found pretty effective, and hopefully you'll find those helpful and valuable as well. Last but not least is, what is your budget that you have carved out from your financials that you can invest into growing and developing your business? And so just like any other business in the world, you've got to treat your own business as an investment, okay? It's an investment into yourself, it's an investment into your future. But to be able to get that return on that investment, we're going to talk a lot about return on investment here today. You've got to have some sort of budget that you've earmarked for helping yourself grow and expand. Okay, so what is that number? What does it look like? How are you going to get that fund? Those funds if you don't already have it. Those are some of the key things that you want to be checking into for yourself. The next thing I want you to think about, especially as you're developing your list of things you want to work on this year, is what are your business pain points? And these are different for everybody, but there are typically some common areas of weakness that I've seen in a lot of advisors' practices as we start to peel off different layers of the onion, so to speak, and get more granular and detailed about their practice. One of the most common things, and we just talked about the importance of a game plan, but the most common thing I see is truly just winging it, okay? So just going exactly from what you did last year right into this new year, but not really changing anything, or saying, I want to do more production this year, but you don't really create a concrete plan. So we want to make sure we work around that. The other thing is how can you make sure you run your business truly like a business? And as an example there, just setting up a calendar each week of your action plans. When are you going to have your meetings? We recommend having a daily meeting every day with your team. We could talk for hours in a whole other webinar series coming up about different ways that you can manage and organize your business, but that's really critical and important. How are you organized inside your system and your processes, for example? So you've got your CRM, you've got your files and documents, you've got your filing cabinets, all sorts of data is everywhere. How do you organize that in a really systematic and effective way? Those are some of the other key things. Operational procedures, marketing investment. So again, these are those things that you want to take a look at, and if you can identify those common pain points and those areas of weakness, again, then you are doing the first step to help yourself come up with a game plan for this year. Okay, so enough about business planning. What I want to talk about is your marketing plan. And again, we kind of preface this. The very first thing to designing your marketing plan is determining what you want to do for production and revenue this year. Okay, so no matter where you are on the spectrum here, perhaps you're at 250,000 and you want to get to 750 in revenue. Maybe you're at $1 million and you want to get to $1.5 million. You've got to set up that number for this year. So let me give you an example. Hypothetically, in 2019, let's just say you did $6 million in annuities, $2.2 million in AUM, $100,000 in life insurance. It's one thing to think about what you want your goals to be for this upcoming year, but it's really key that you make those growth goals realistic, okay? So it's very, very hard, if not impossible, to jump from $6 million to $20 million or $5 million to 15, these massive jumps in production. Typically, growth goals tend to be a little bit more progressional. So as an example here, maybe $6 million can go to 8, or $2.2 million can go to 4. Maybe you don't want to grow your life insurance. Maybe that was a good year for you. But whatever those production goals are, I would encourage you to keep those realistic and more linearly progression versus exponential progressions, for example. Not that it's impossible, it's just a lot more difficult, and it comes with more risk the higher those growth goals are for the year. So the key here, though, is whatever that growth goal is. For example, if you went from 6 to 8 and 2.2 million of AUM to 4 million, that would be a revenue increase of $158,000. But the question that we started off with is how much are you willing or able to invest to generate that $158,000? That's the concept of return on investment. So let me give you some examples. This is what we call the best business slot machine ever. And once you understand it, I think it can be such a powerful thing to think about. But if I said to you, if you put in $10,000 into this slot machine, and it's the 4X ROI slot machine, and you pull the lever, out's going to come $40,000 in your pocketbook. Okay? How often would you be pulling that lever? And I think most people would pull it as often as they could. But that's the idea behind return on investment. Now, it's not quite that simple. And obviously, you've got to be adept at making sales, and there's all sorts of other key things that you need to do between putting the money into the marketing side and getting the funds out after the sale. But that's the general idea. So we always want to pay attention to this concept of return on investment. And if you're truly confident that a certain activity, when executed correctly, will deliver you a positive return on investment, then you should be very confident about putting in those funds because you're going to get those funds back out in return, okay? Now, one thing I want to point out here is very, very important, somewhat self-explanatory, but if I put in $0 into this slot machine, Unfortunately, I'm going to get out $0. So what that means in our world of financial advisors, if we don't invest any additional money into our marketing activities, it's unlikely typically to see much return or growth come out of that, okay? So typically we do have to put in some sort of investment, and it's up to you to determine how much you can afford to put into your business. Okay, so what I want you to do, and I'm going to walk you through a tool that I use in my practice here. It's something I'm more than happy to share with you and send to you. It's what we call our business planning, just an Excel spreadsheet that we use. I want to walk you through how this works here, and then I'm going to walk you through a couple of the different marketing activities, the top 6 that we use in our practice. But for example, whatever you're doing for marketing, you could put this on this business planner here, and it's going to be, I think, a very valuable tool for you to start to outline your goals for the year. So this just shows one example, dinner seminars. You can put on here whether or not it's a primary, secondary, or tertiary marketing activity, but you can put in here how many times per year you're going to run that event, what that cost is per occurrence, how many average units you might expect to have attend that seminar, the appointment ratio, show-up ratio, and all those numbers are going to crunch together automatically for you to give you the total annual appointments that you might be able to expect from that marketing activity. So this is really important data that you hopefully are tracking about your business, and this will enable you to give you that big picture look of how your performance is measuring up to your goals. Now, once you have a number like that, 126 appointments on the year, you can see what your close ratio is, your average sale, your commission amount, and then that's going to crunch one more time together to give you an annualized production figure as well as an annualized cost. And then we can use those 2 metrics to determine our return on investment given those parameters that we input. So as an example, you can see here that if I get 50 sales from these dinner seminars over the course of the year, or if my business generates those 50 sales, that's going to be $12.5 million of production, which translates to $875,000 in revenue minus $202,000 in costs, equals a 432% return on investment from those dinner seminars. Okay, guys, so that's an example of that 4X lever there. Now, every activity is going to have a different ROI. We're going to dive into some of those different ones and what they mean. But the key thing here is just knowing that if you put these on paper, then you have yourself the framework of a good foundational system that you use to measure adjustments and tweaks to your business. So one thing you can do, for example, if you went in here and you tweaked your closing ratio from 40% to 45%, just work on some of your processes and your sales, you're going to see a huge bump to that production figure, just for example. So it just shows you how all these different pieces work together in concert. Now, the rest of the plan here, again, I'm not going to walk through this here. There's a lot of data and numbers. I'm going to walk you through the top 6 activities that we use here in our practice and that we recommend. But if you're interested in getting a copy of this spreadsheet, at the end I'll give you our contact information. Just reach out to us or put in a comment inside the question field on the webinar here, and I'm more than happy to send you this entire Excel spreadsheet, no cost, no obligation, and you can tweak it to your heart's content. Okay, so this is a super helpful tool, and I hope that you take advantage of that and find it helpful and valuable for you as well. Okay, so just like you would diversify in the market for your clients' investments, I would encourage you to diversify your marketing activities. So that's the idea behind the 6-spoke marketing wheel. And so what these are is if you just did these 6 different marketing activities, I would argue that you could become a very, very successful producer in the industry. And I know some of the people on this call recognize your name. Some of you are very, very successful. Some of you maybe aren't where you want to be. But that's the idea here, is if you implement these different activities consistently and effectively, you can write pretty much as much production as you would like to. It just all depends on how much willing to invest into those marketing activities to grow. So without further ado, let's dive into those here. We're going to walk through each of these one at a time, but let me tell you what the 6 different spokes of the marketing wheel are here. And the first one that we found are very effective are seminars, courses, educational workshops, things of those natures. I'll explain the difference, at least the way we see it, between those different activities. Then you have low-cost educational workshops, which again, are different than seminars and courses to the cold public. And we're going to dive into what all of these are in a lot more detail here. Direct mail nurturing, so that's ongoing communication to prospects, leads, clients via direct mail, so we'll talk more about those. Email marketing, everyone's pretty familiar with email marketing, but we're going to talk about some of the top secrets that we found will help make you more results and better success through your email marketing. We have client events and referrals, and then the last one on the list here is what we call a hand-picked prospecting program or campaign. Okay, so these are the 6 things, and I'm going to walk you through these in detail here, and of course along the way. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in. I'm going to try to see if we've got time at the end here to handle any questions that pop up. Okay, so first thing first, what I want to emphasize is whatever you are doing for marketing, no matter what level of production you're at, you need some sort of activity that provides you with a high volume of quality leads with little time needed, okay? So without that, you're never going to grow effectively. So for example, one of the reasons we like seminars, seminars are very expensive, but they provide a high volume of quality leads with a very little amount of time needed. So you can get in front of 30, 40 people at once, so you're leveraging your time. You can schedule 8, 9, 10 appointments per night, depending on the seminar. Okay, so you're getting that high volume there. And as opposed to just, if you don't do something that provides you with a high volume of leads, now you're just kind of hoping and wishing. You don't have a consistent flow of new people, and you really need that consistent flow, okay? So just think about that. Whatever your business looks like, what is the #1 activity that you're doing that's providing a high volume of leads flowing into your pipeline? So again, seminars and courses, we like them. Some people do, some people don't. We've used them in our business for over 14 years. But the one thing that I can tell you about them is the top aspect of being successful is ongoing consistency. Because, if you do seminars over and over and over again, people that have done them will tell you this, you're going to occasionally get the dud, right? Just like if you go out there and buy fireworks on the 4th of July, you got the whole pack of black cats and you light one off and it's a dud, but the other 100 of them go off no problem. So with seminars, if you do just 1 or 2, and especially when you're first getting started, if it's something you're not really experienced with, you're not really an expert in, you're not going to do as well as someone that's done 50 or 100 or 200 seminar presentations. There is a science and an art to it. And so the way that you become effective at it with those and really get that high return on investment is through ongoing consistency. And the same goes for academic courses. So those are very popular these days, where you go out to a university, you host an academic course where somebody pays you $35, $45 to attend. You do 4 or 6 hours over 2 sessions or 3 sessions. Those are very popular as well. But just like dinner seminars, the key to those is consistency, consistency. The third thing that you can do, I see a lot of these out there today, and I like them as well, are the educational workshops, but to the cold public, okay? So you can go out there to a marketing agency, you can pay $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. They'll market it through Facebook, and you'll get a workshop where people don't have to pay to attend, but there's no food or dinner associated with it as well. It's typically at a public library or a community center or a college. So all of these have the same thing in common. They're all just methods of group-based events. Okay, so you're leveraging time and quantity, and as well as typically getting a high quality of people that fit your target demographic to attend. So this is the core of our marketing, really generates the bulk of our leads in business. Just as an example, this was from that other spreadsheet that I showed you. Won't get into the details of the number crunching, but what we found is historically we get about a 400% return on investment from seminars and courses in our practice. Okay, so that's really, I think, the key thing is when done consistently, and some are better and worse, that is that 4x ROI lever that you can pull. You put in $10,000, you go through the sales process, you're going to get $40,000 back out from those seminars. Everybody with me? Okay. So the next step that I would encourage you to do, if you believe in seminars and group events, and this is another tool that I'm happy to send you as well. It's also in Excel. It's just a calendar planner that you can use to set up your schedule for the year. This is so important. So we just finalized this schedule that I'm going to show you here for our own practice for 2020 a couple weeks ago. And so this is exactly what we're going to execute on throughout the rest of this calendar year. But let me just show you how this works, okay? So you've got, remember that consistency factor. We want to do seminars every single month within your budget or as frequently as you can. So here we have 2 in January, 1 in February, 2 in March, 1 in April, 2 in May, 1 in June, and 2 in July. And I'm only going to show the first half of the year here just for time purposes. But again, whether or not you do seminars, let's say you do the academic courses instead, you could do full 2, 3 session courses, you could do 1 session courses, all those different things are available to you. But whatever that is, I encourage you to put that onto a calendar and map out your year, map out your budget. That's going to be, I think, one of the most important and powerful things that you can do to help keep you on track, okay? And once you have this mapped out on this calendar, sleep on it for a couple days, make sure you feel good with it, and then, kind of green light the plan as your final plan, and then just execute on that, whether it's you or your staff. If you've got a team of people, terrific, give them this plan and say, Joe, team, whatever their name is, this is the plan that we're going to do for this year, okay? So that's the idea behind seminars and courses and workshops. One thing I want to mention here, we are actually, Vision Financial Marketing, we're releasing in about a couple of weeks from now, sometime in early February here, a brand new academic course in partnership with actually a mail house that does seminar marketing and course marketing. So if you're interested in academic courses, it's going to be a 4-hour session covering everything from, budgeting, income planning, investments, insurance, Social Security, healthcare, you name it, a very comprehensive academic course. That's something that you can take advantage of. We'll probably be doing a webinar announcement when that's ready and available, but we're just about done with a brand new course here that you can participate in for 2020. So keep that in mind. If that's something that you're interested, let us know, and we'll add you to the waiting list so that that's available the moment we have it ready for you, okay? Okay, let's move on to our second spoke in the wheel. Low-cost educational workshops. I want to emphasize the first part of that, low cost. Okay, so the difference between these workshops and seminars and courses that we just talked about is these ones are marketed to people that are already in your database, people that you've already seen. All right, so if you've done a lot of seminars or you've been in business a number of years, you hopefully have 500, 600, 1,000 prospects or leads in your database. These are the people that you want to market these low-cost educational workshops to. One nice thing about these, because of their low-cost nature, you'll see here a sample ROI projection from our experience. Last year we put in about $10,000. I'll show you this in just a second. Generated about $105,000 in revenue. That's a total ROI of $1,050, so a little over double those of dinner seminars. So here's the way that these work. I'll show you the other side of our calendar here. We do one of these every quarter, okay? So what we're going to do this year is we're going to do one lifetime income workshop in March, where we talk about annuities and the power that they have for generating lifetime income. In May, we're going to do a workshop about avoiding the IRA tax bomb. All right, so we talk about taxes and tax planning a little bit inside of there. And then you can't see it for the rest of the year, but we're going to do one on investments and another one on life insurance and long-term care planning. So those are the 4 topics that we generally like to rotate through. But whatever your business model is, if you're just a investment guy, you could do this on whatever your investment approach is, right? So I know some advisors, they have, super awesome tactical money manager A, you could do that on your, whatever your type of investment approach is. So you have lots of options, but the key thing to keep in mind here is this event should cost you no more than, $1,500, $2,000. Ours costs us $2,500 just because we have enough people in our database. We can actually do 2 nights for each time we host one of these. But the key is your cost is much, much lower, and thus your ROI tends to be much, much higher from these, okay? So now where can you get these kind of presentations if you don't have them? I suggest if you've got an FMO or companies you work with, you can buy lots of presentations from different companies that are out there, but you can definitely take advantage of, if you do our academic course that we're coming up with in a month or so here, you can use those slides perhaps as part of your workshop. So lots of options there, but just keep that idea in mind, okay? There's really no limit to what you can talk about. Just make sure you do these regularly and consistently. So that's number 2 on our list. The third one that we're going to talk about here is direct mail nurturing. Okay, and in our opinion, direct mail nurturing is the ultimate way to revive dead leads. And the way we do that within Vision Financial Marketing, our platform, is you can do that really simply with a couple clicks of the button. And so let me tell you a little bit more about how we do this, some of the ROI potential. Here's an example here. You might spend $6,000 over the course of the year. If you generated $70,000 in revenue, that's an ROI of 1,167%. So very, very effective. And the other big part about direct mail and drip marketing from a nurturing perspective is very, very low time requirement, okay? So we've also made that really, really simple and easy for you to do just by making most of the entire drip program is pretty much automated for you through our platform. So the way that we do that, what we recommend here, there's a lot of other ways that people could do direct mail drip marketing, but we recommend and like postcards as the core of your year-long nurturing campaign. So, for example, one of our most popular postcard campaigns over the course of the year is investing tips. So we've got investing tip number 1, investing tip number 2, investing tip number 3. In fact, there's 12 of them, one for every month throughout the year. And on the back of each of these investing tips, you're just going to see a very short message, a call to action, a picture of you, your phone number, your information, your website, and that's really the main concept here. You're staying top of mind, you're providing a motivating message to get somebody to call you, and you're giving them that strong call to action so that when they're ready, they're going to think of you and you're going to be the first person that they call. Okay, so that's one part of the year-long drip campaigns with postcards. The other part here is you don't want to forget to show that you care about your prospects and clients as well. So one of the other things you'll see built into the system is a variety of different seasonal campaigns, holiday campaigns, different postcards here. And the goal here, guys, is you're not trying to pitch an appointment. You're not trying to sell somebody something with these cards. You want to mix these in, and the idea is that they're just a very thoughtful greeting where you're just telling the client that you're thinking about them, okay? And that can really go a long way. I can't tell you how many times we've sent out these postcards, and that client will come into our office a couple weeks later for a meeting or a review, and they literally have these postcards stuffed in their little kits that they bring into the office. It's just really cool to see. So they definitely mean stuff to people. I had another client just tell me after the holidays that she can't wait to go check her mailbox anymore because we're always sending her stuff. So that's the idea. You want people thinking about you, and these are a great way to help you accomplish that goal. So putting 2 to 2 together, the way that this works is if this is your year-long calendar for 2020, you might have 12 financial touches, 1 every month. Then you're going to have 4 personal touches, for example, 1 every quarter. And one last thing that you can do, and this is a little bit more on the advanced side, and we'll have to talk more about this some other time, is you can do additional call to actions over and above these automated campaign pieces that are going out, and those can help boost your responses even more than just sending out the automated postcards, okay? So that's something that if you have interest in, you want to learn more about it, give me a call or an email, and I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about what we put in those emails and those letters to help generate an additional boost on those returns, okay? Guys, the most important thing I can recommend, though, with your monthly drip marketing is you want to set up a monthly budget commitment. So here's what I mean by that. You want to choose an amount that you can afford to consistently spend each month. All right, so you can start really small. You could send to 50 people. We send to over 1,000, actually, every single month. You can send to 500 people, right? It really depends on what your budget is. But whatever you do, set a budget that you can consistently afford and then do not stop mailing, okay? Because the science here is you need to get in front of people sometimes 6, 7, 8, 9 times. I've seen somebody call us after getting 12 postcards, okay? So you don't want to stop after the first mailing or 2 where you don't get a call, hypothetically. I've gotten calls after a first mailing or 2, but don't stop just because you haven't gotten a call in the first 1 or 2 mailings. That's not what it's designed to do. So on the other hand, if you're worried about overspending, you're worried about getting a return on your investment immediately, the answer to that is start with a smaller amount, okay? So start with something that you can afford to stick with consistently throughout the year. I would recommend at least 100 prospects if you can afford it. It's going to cost you about $100 a month if you do that. But we've got advisors mailing over $1,000 worth of marketing each month with us to 1,000 people on a prospecting list, okay? So it really just depends on your budget, but make sure you stay consistent no matter what you do and how much you send. That's how you're going to see that kind of result, okay? The most successful advisors, I will put this out there, we've been helping a lot of people right now plan out their entire campaign for the year, and we can help you do this, right? You tell us what you want to do, we'll help you design the campaigns, we'll help you order them throughout the system here, but we have already scheduled those for the entire year. We're not waiting until May or June or July to actually schedule the campaign. We've already booked those dates already for this year for the entire year in advance, okay? So once you spend the time to do that, your entire campaign now for 2020 is on autopilot, and you can basically just sit back and relax and not worry about those campaigns getting implemented. So that's the idea behind setting everything up well in advance for the year. Okay, guys, that's direct mail nurturing. Again, if you got questions on all of this, I could spend probably an hour talking about all of these as separate topics, and maybe we'll do those on future webinars. But let's talk about email marketing, and I'm running just a few minutes over. I was hoping to keep this to 40 minutes, but I'll probably be another 10 minutes or so here, guys. But email marketing is the lowest cost way to keep in touch, but it's not always the most effective, okay? So because of that fact that it's so low, from an expense perspective, I see a lot of people flocking to this, you know, trying to do different things from an email marketing perspective, but they don't get the results that they're looking for. So obviously ROI is kind of ridiculous. You know, if you spend $600 on something, you make 1 sale, 2 sales, you're just going to have this, you know, ridiculously high return on investment. But that's just a part of the story, okay? So either way though, I love email marketing. It's a huge part of what we do. I'm always looking for ways of how do we make it do better, get us more responses, get us more leads, more acquisition. So let me just give you a couple of things that we found make your email marketing more effective. I'm not going to say we have the silver bullet on everything here, but these things have worked pretty well for us. The first thing is we like to send out a weekly or bi-weekly, it's a designed email. It's got a header. It's kind of pretty and colorful, but it's just a bi-weekly or weekly blog post. Okay, now if you don't have the ability to write your own blogs, you can find an article online and paraphrase it. You can go to your FMO and have them provide you an article. Fast forward 6 months, I intend to hopefully automate this for you inside BFM in the future, but we don't have that capability here today. But that's the idea, just something that you send consistently every single week or every other week to stay top of mind and to demonstrate your expertise and your reliability as a financial professional. So that's number one. Number two is every single month and you don't have to necessarily do it much more than this, is send your clients a plain text email. And you'll see an example of that on the right here on this image. This is a sample plain text email that we send through our CRM system here. Now the question is okay, that sounds like a great idea, but how do I not spend, you know, my entire month sending plain text emails to my clients? And the answer is you can automate that using a CRM system like Vision Financial Marketing, because if you have all your contacts in there, with one click we can implement the mail merge feature, and then every single one of those clients gets the same email just merged in with their first name. And so you could send, whether it's 50 or 1,000, you can send all those plain text emails. That client will think that they got an email sent directly to them by you. There's no unsubscribe button. There's no, you know, manage your profile, you know, anything like that that makes it look like a spam or email marketing kind of message. It just feels like a one-on-one email. It has absolutely doubled our response rate, guys. Like for things like event invitations, things just, you know, sending a monthly commentary for the financial markets is something that we'll do. We get tons and tons of responses to these because, again, it just feels like I sat down there and wrote those messages. So very, very cool way to do things. That's probably the biggest suggestion that I can make, is ditch the really, you know, the pretty email templates. And for example, guys, the emails, there's all these systems out there that recommend sending your clients a collection of articles, you know, that they might be interested in. I really dislike those. I've talked to so many advisors that have tried them and they get no responses to them because there's nothing for them to respond to. You know, you're sending your client an article about golfing or fishing or something, you know, it doesn't really hold a lot of weight typically from what we've found. Okay, last but not least, we talked about having these educational workshops. The way you're going to get people to attend those is through a combination of postcards and email. So you'll see an example invitation on the right. That's something that we've sent in the past, just to an event we did a couple months ago. It might have only been 1 month ago, but that's the best way you're going to get attendance is through these plain text emails, but also we'll use some designed email templates too to make sure we get a high response rate for events. If you do an educational event and you do email invitations, sort of like you might have seen for this webinar, that's an event that we invited you to. I recommend a 3-step process. Send one event invitation, 2 weeks out, perhaps, 2 to 2.5 weeks out for your event. Send another one a week out, and then do another final call email, the same week of before your event. And that 3-step process is going to help you get more people to attend than if you just send a single email, okay? So again, we could spend hours talking about email marketing. I want to move ahead to the last 2 spokes of our marketing wheel here. And if you have questions on emails, let us know. Happy to help you there. But the 5th one on our spoke is client events and referrals. And of course, everybody loves referrals. I think the most important aspect to generating them, however, is most advisors need some sort of proactive strategy. Because if you think about it, if you just sit there and are reactive, you'll probably get a couple of referrals, but I would argue you could probably double how many referrals you're going to get if not only being reactive, you're also proactive, and I'll give you a couple ideas on how to do that here just momentarily. But these, of course, have a terrific return on investment. The program that we used last year for referrals and client events cost us about $9,000, and I think we made probably 7 or 8 sales off of that. I have to go back and check the exact numbers. So you're going to get an ROI 1,500%, 2,000%, terrific return on investment if done the right way and done consistently. So let me show you just a little bit more detail of how we host these. So you'll see on that same calendar that I'm happy to send and share with you. This is actually something new we're going to try this year. It's called Wine and Cheese Fridays. We're going to do this once a quarter. We're still mapping this out. We actually didn't get it launched in January. We were going to do one in January, and we got behind the 8 ball there and didn't get it launched, so that's why that's scratched out. But we're going to do those 3 more times this year, and we're going to try those out. We've got market update events. Those are a huge part of how we get in front of our clients consistently throughout the year. We do something called a re-invite and referral seminar. So very low cost, but very effective. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. And then again, another market review in the mid-year here. So again, just like the other events, if you do client events, I encourage you to add those to your calendar so you've got them mapped out in advance and you're able just to follow the calendar that you've outlined for the year. Just suggestions here, guys. I would recommend just keeping it simple. I've seen a lot of marketing ideas for different client events, things from doggy days to baseball outings to picnics. There's all this stuff out there. I'm not saying they don't work. I just prefer to keep it simple. There's a lot of work that goes into getting people to attend all those gardening days and whatever people do for kind of crazy client events. But this is what we do in our business here, just one way you can approach it. We do an annual client pie day where we give away a pie every Thanksgiving, very, very popular. Hits kind of the key points on client appreciation, retention, and referrals. We do our market outlook events twice a year. Those are very, very popular and really is the #1 thing that we do that I think helps our retention on the AUM side because we're giving people updates about the market. We're giving them reasons why they should stay with us as their money manager. So there's a lot of key things that are built in there education-wise. I mentioned this wine and cheese tasting. We're going to try that this year, make it more of a social connection versus financial education. So that was something we felt we were missing was more of a social connection. And then something we did last year, really only 2 or 3 times, is we did a couple golfing foursomes. And I actually don't think we got any business out of it, but some people do great at these if you really love to golf. But that's just an example of something that you can do. And then we also do have a referral incentive program that I think was a very, very big success for us last year. And the idea behind an incentive program is just what's called the tipping point theory, okay? Which is bottom line is if you give somebody a reason to do something, they're just going to have a little bit more motivation, and so they might tip over from the side where they weren't going to do it now to the side where they will based on that little incentive, okay? So that's just something that you can think about. But whatever you think of doing, make these, again, a consistent part of what you do. Whenever you have these events, however you market to them, make sure you tell all of your clients, please be sure to feel free to bring along friends if you like. And that message will start to resonate. And then if you do have a referral incentive program, anytime you run any sort of event throughout the year for your clients and prospects, put a flyer at that event about your referral program. Okay, that was the other big thing that we did last year, and I think it was very, very, very effective for our business. Okay, last but certainly not least, and we're going to end on this here, guys, is our hand-picked prospecting sequence or program. This is very effective and low cost, but it does require some execution to implement. Has one of the highest return on investments of all the activities that we've seen here. So, for example, our program costs about $1,200 and generated 2 sales last year for $70,000. So it's got an ROI of 5,833%. So very, very high. We're actually going to double how many people we send this program to this year. So let me explain what we do. And I know that the biggest thing here that you're going to say as you look at this is, wow, that looks like a lot of work. Okay, and overall it's a simple plan, but yes, you do need to do it, and I'll give you some recommendations here to how to make it not seem overwhelming, okay? But this is what we do. We take 25 people, and we do the following program for them throughout the year. In January, we send them a personal card. In February, we send them a hand-picked article with a one-page letter, so just find any article that is kind of interesting or insightful for you in the news, New York Times, wherever you like to read. Then in March, they get a phone call from the advisor, either me or my father. April, they get a nice gift. May, they get yet another article and letter. June, they get a phone call from a admin in the company, okay? So here, that person might say, Joe, you know, I know you came in for your appointment last year. Steve wanted me to reach out to see if this was a better time for he and you to get back together and continue your planning. Okay, so that person's going to call out and make those phone calls to see if they can schedule an appointment. And then we basically repeat this: personal card, letter, article, phone call from the advisor, gift, one-page letter, article, and last but not least, phone call from the admin. And guys, you know, what happens when you do this is this isn't an expensive program. I think it's $50 or $60 a year per person. You know, multiply that by your top 20, 25 people. It really does work, okay? You know, and this is here's the key. When you choose 20 to 25 people, they've got to be people you consider to be your best of the best prospects. So let me give you an example. The guy that comes in with $4 million, but's the ultimate do-it-yourselfer, he's not your best of the best prospect, okay? You know, replace that with the person that has $1 million that's going to retire in 6 months, that really liked you but just wasn't quite ready to move their 401k yet, you know, because they haven't been retired, right? So you gotta cherry pick your top 20 to 25 people. And the key is in your very first year, don't overthink what you write, send, or say. Just do the plan here and be consistent. Don't hard sell people. If you start hard selling them every single time on every phone call or personal card, they're gonna get annoyed really, really quick. So think more in terms of providing value. And if they need it, you're there to help them, okay? And then this would also be in addition to any other postcard campaign, for example, that you've already got set up for any of your top prospects. But again, those are automated, so that's really easy to do. I would anticipate here what we saw is if you do this for 25, 30 people, you'll probably get 3 or 4 of those, 2 or 3 or 4 of those people over the course of the year to convert to becoming clients. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but if those 2 or 3 people have $400,000, $500,000 each that they move to you because they're your best of the best prospects, you might have just made $1.5 million of additional sales there with about $1,200 of investment. Okay, so extremely, extremely effective. The key here is don't go hog wild here and try to put 100 people on the campaign because you're going to get overwhelmed, and if you get overwhelmed, you won't do it. So again, I recommend starting here with about 20 to 25 people, and then just stick with it for the year, and I would be very, very surprised if at the end of the year you don't see some pretty significant conversions from this entire campaign, okay? So again, guys, if you have questions on this, anything, what we send, how we send it, feel free, let us know. Happy to share any additional tips and education here that we can with you. And guys, those are the 6 different spokes on the marketing wheel. So let me just summarize here. The biggest thing to get this thing going is you got to spend some time planning out your year. And I started off this by saying if you just wing it, you're likely not to see the levels of success that you're going to want to see or get from here. So you just got to plan this out. So I'm happy to send you a PDF of this webinar if you want, the slides. Again, I'm giving you all sorts of things to request. Reach out to Katie or myself afterwards and say, I'd like to get a copy of these slides. Print them off and just, if you want to replicate this, by all means, or tweak it, by all means. But whatever you do, just put a plan in place for the year. And I think that is going to be the #1 step you can take to have the best 2020 that you've always wanted. Okay, guys? So I know I've rattled off a lot of different ideas here. I love talking about this stuff. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let us know. Of course, our technology platform here, Vision Financial Marketing, can help you in a lot of different ways, okay? Go to the website, watch some of our other demos and recordings to see how the platform works. But it's kind of like using a rocket ship compared to a horse and buggy carriage is the analogy I like to use. A really powerful system that can help you do many, many of the things that we talked about here on the webinar, okay? If you haven't checked it out, a lot of you are current users. I'm glad to have you back on the training here. If you haven't created your account yet, just go to the website visionfinancialmarketing.com. You can create the account for free to start using all the different features that we have and get familiar with the system. So again, visionfinancialmarketing.com. Or more importantly, if you'd like to do a demo one-on-one or talk through any of the things that we've covered on the webinar here, give Katie a call. She's my right-hand person, really helps me run the show here. Her contact information is here on the screen, or you can just go to demo.runvfm.com and book a time, and you guys can get together to map out how we can help you. Okay, guys, so thank you so much for being on the call. I really, really do appreciate each and every one of you taking the time. My goal is to provide you with ideas and strategies here, so anything I can do to help, just let me know, and happy to do anything I can to make it a great year. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to you real soon.